Alright, already played against Momia Vig in this recording session, but I don't know what order you're going to see everything in, so no spoilers here. Sram Senior Edificier versus Ezuri Claw of Progress. Yeah, plenty of mana. And we've got a cheap artifact to get into as well, so that will draw us a card. And then we've got removal, so I think we're set up quite nicely to get some stuff done. Yeah, we'll drop a plains and pass straight over. Alright, Jiraga Tree Speaker, the question is, do we bolt the bird or not? We could hold off on Sram for a turn and wait for them to put mana into that thing. And that slows them down as well. It slows us down as well, is the thing. We'll definitely play in a plains anyway. Yeah, I'm going to hold off and force our opponent to go slow. They might know what we're up to. In fact, we are projecting what we're up to. Yeah, let's go like that. They go for the level up, we go for the swords. Gets rid of their thing. Gains both of us an extra card draw, kind of. Okay, Stoneforge Mystic as well. Let's go in for our commander first. Get the Cathar's Shield down, that will draw us a card because it's an equipment. We get into a Wasteland, which may come in handy. Going to surprise our opponent with a Wasteland because if they use a fetch... Yeah, if they use a fetch, then they might not go for a dual land if they know that we have a Wasteland in play. So I'm going to hold on to that for now, and there is a Command Tower and a Sol Ring. So they go straight in for their Ezuri. Holding off on their Sol Ring until they can slam their commander in. What do we want to do here? We could go for Loxodon Warhammer. I doubt our opponent will block. Yeah, we'll go Darksteel Citadel, Sigarda's Aid, and we'll go in with a Loxodon Warhammer. That draws us a card. We get into Darksteel Axe for more card draw. We will say yes there. And like I said, I doubt our opponent blocks here, so we might as well get some commander damage onto them. And next turn we can actually go for Stoneforge Mystic into a sword that gives us protection from colours. Yeah, we have to think about that. Might just go in for Feast and Famine. That looks like a Rexage to me. They might wish they'd waited on that. But I don't suppose they can play around the fact that we might have Stoneforge Mystic. Oh, alright, going for Sigarda's Aid instead. Which is actually a good play by our opponent. Then they put a plus counter on the Rexage. And now it's Return to Dust. That's very tempting. Yeah, we could Return to Dust and Wasteland. And because I know what a competitive player our commander is, our opponent is even, I don't actually mind doing that. So let's go Wasteland there. They float the mana. Then Return to Dust. If you cast it during your main phase, you may exile, so we don't have to, so there's no harm in... Well, we'll get rid of that floating mana first. Not going to swing in with Sram. We'll go for Return to Dust on there. And that puts our opponent down to 2 mana. Continuing to play it out though, so they will swing in. And deal 4, 5, 6, 7 damage to us. We go to 6. And there's that. So DC's Fateful, we saw that in the last game. They sacrifice it to itself to bounce our Sram. And, okay, we get an Ancient Tomb, which is a lot more mana. Well, we go Sram, certainly. Then Stoneforge Mystic. I think it's Feast and Famine here. Although we could go Hammer of Nazan. Yeah, let's just go Feast and Famine. We can cheat that in with our Stoneforge Mystic next turn. We'll go Sword of the Animist because it's the most expensive. Draws us into Knight of the White Orchid, which is just going to be a blocker. They get into a tropical island with 4 cards in hand. How much artifact removal do they have? Okay, Muldrifter for more card draw. And more counters onto their Rex Age. So that is 10 damage coming through now. We've got life gain with Loxodon Warhammer, luckily. And a Skull Clamp as well. So we go... tap the Stoneforge. Cheat in the Sword of Feast and Famine. Then we go Sword of Feast and Famine onto Sram. And we might as well put that on as well. Because we missed our land this turn. I would like to have gotten the Loxodon Warhammer onto our commander. That triggers Sword of the Animist, so we get a land in that will untap with the Sword of Feast and Famine. They'll discard a card here as well. They discard Swan Song. Then it is Knight of the White Orchid for a blocker. And we'll go 1, 2, 3. I'll put that on there. And then I think the safest option, I'd like to put Skull Clamp onto the Knight of the White Orchid, but I think the safest thing to do is put Protection from Green on there. Just so that our opponent can't get it out of the way and swing in for lethal. They would have left us at 1 point, I think, but still. And this way we're spreading the threats around as well. Ooh, that's activated abilities of artifacts can't be activated. That's, that's one means of switching off our deck. Our opponent may well have us yet. Ezuri puts plus counters on this thing, most likely. And there's not much point in them swinging in because we have protection. That thing is, when it dies, exile a permanent, which we don't mind going for. We can't tap down the Darksteel Citadel anymore, which means we have to go for this. Oh, in fact, let's play out an artifact first and see if we can draw into a land. Well, that's another one to play. It is free, so we might as well. And we just get into Elspeth. Well, anyway, let's get down the Archon of Justice. I'm sure our opponent doesn't want to swing into that. Then we'll gain some life with the Knight of the White Orchid. And we'll get down our Elspeth this turn as well. Our opponent discards a land. And do we want to play Skull Clamp? Yeah, I think I'm going to be greedy here and go for Skull Clamp. Alright, Teferi's Protection might be worth holding up over... Yeah, I'm going to hold up Teferi's Protection instead of going for the Elspeth. So 2 more hits from our Knight of the White Orchid and that sees our opponent done. And they're in a tricky spot. They can't swing in with a big creature into our Archon of Justice. Alright, a Transmute onto Muddle the Mixture. Goes for a 2 CMC thing. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 more mana. Okay, going for Sage of Hours. That's extra turns. And they've got 4 experience counters, soon to have 5. And it's 5 counters this needs. So that's infinite turns, isn't it? I think our opponent's got us here. Switching off our artifacts really hurt. What happens here is every turn Ezuri will put now 5 counters onto the Sage of Hours. They remove it for an extra turn. And obviously Ezuri will do that every turn, every beginning of combat that our opponent has. So they can just have infinite turns now basically and build up the board. Eldritch Evolution gets rid of the Reclamation Sage. Goes in for the Sower of Temptation. Let's just go for Teferi's Protection there. And when does Teferi's Protection knock off? It's until our next turn, isn't it? So our opponent has to find... They can take all the turns they want, but while we're phased out, they can't do anything to us. Looks like they're just testing that theory here. Like I said, they can take extra turns, but they have to actually come up with a win. So I'm just going to yield all and see how much our opponent can do. I think they've probably got us, but how they do it is anyone's guess. Alright, deciding to pass the turn over to us. They've got a card in hand. What can we do here? We can go 7 there. They probably block this. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, how annoying. Yeah, 13 if they block this after an Elspeth. We can't equip the sword. We can draw with it, though. We have to get down Elspeth, though. Oh, yeah, we can cheat it in with the Stoneforge, can't we? So let's do that. Oh, and this triggers on casting it. Oh, never mind then. We'll just get down the Elspeth. Give flying to one of our things. And then we can keep our fingers crossed to... Oh, we don't draw a card, do we? Might as well swing in with everything. Yeah, if it wasn't for our artifacts being switched off, that's pretty much the worst thing that could happen to us in this deck. Yeah, if we could draw a card, we could hope for something like Path to Exile to get rid of this. Oh, and of course, yeah, we don't have protection from all of their creatures anyway because they've got blue stuff in play now, so they've definitely got us. I will just pass over to them and yield so that we can actually see how they win. Yeah, just assumed that everything was going to get through there pretty much, but they've got us anyway. So, no worries. Let's just yield through everything and let them take their infinite turns. And there we go, they actually didn't need to take a load more turns, they just buff this, put a bunch more counters onto it, and that alone can kill us. So we say good game to our opponent. I mentioned it in the last game, but Momia Vig is a really tight Simic player, and they usually actually play a Momia Vig deck, which is tortuous to play against, but they've gone for something entirely different with Ezuri Claw of Progress here. So interesting to see what you can do with a deck like that. We were really just beaten by Collector Alf in this game though, so that's unfortunate, but it's a legal card, so no problem with our opponent playing it, of course. Hopefully you all enjoyed this game and this return to Sram Senior Edificier. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.